Hello, and thanks for joining us for this brief training on how to fill out the annual report. In about 2012, EPA stopped collecting our data, our SBEAP data, and so the NSC began a self-directed effort using K-State staff, myself, Nancy Larson, and others. This year, Laura Matthews from Utah, Jennifer Collins from Indiana, and Cale Welsh from Arizona to put together a small work group and develop a simpler form so that we could collect our own data and then develop a one-page flyer that could be used for promoting our programs. You can see here that this is a copy of that one-page flyer. It's available in several places on the website and conveniently under What's New. But this is the type of flyer that we would like to use every year and update each year based on new data. This can be used to promote ourselves to regional administrative directors within your own state, as well as to EPA headquarters. So the current flyer contains 2015 data, and what you're here to do today is to collect our 2016 data. So with that said, let's get started. You were either emailed out the form as well as the PDF form that you can practice on, as well as the URL for the survey, or you can find it here under What's New. You could also find it on the NSC page. And so you can find both the PDF, which looks like this, where you can use this to kind of practice inserting your data. And then once you've done that, you can go to the electronic data collection tool here. Our data collection tool does not keep, you're not allowed to save your data in the data collection tool. So it's important that you have all your data ready before you enter it. Now, with that said, I will say there is a caveat to that. The SurveyMonkey tool that is sponsored by Indiana, Jennifer Collins out of Indiana, is hosting this tool. That tool does remember your URL. So you're not, it will keep the data that has been populated, it will keep it in the form in most instances if you are using the same computer to enter the data. So that's just something I've discovered as I've gone through and tested the form and then entered in certain data. So it's pretty basic to get started with, but this first question is really important to us. We want to know, are you going to be reporting data that is collected on a calendar year or is it on a fiscal year? So in Kansas, our fiscal year starts July 1 and runs through June 30. And that's how our SBEAP contract works. We're a program at a university. We have a contract with the state agency to host the state SBEAP program. So it's important to check the fiscal year. And the reason that we say that's important is we just want to be consistent year to year. So if you submitted fiscal data last year, if it's possible, please submit fiscal data. Or if you do make that change, then next year just carry on with that same change so we have some consistency in data. And then, of course, some really basic information regarding your contact. And this should be your primary contact person. So usually the director for your program who is entering this data or is at least listed as the contact. Then what we would like to know in question 4 is we would like you to record your combined budget for your SBO SBEAP, and your CAP programs. If you also have a pollution prevention program or some other grants or other types of assistance efforts where you're funded differently, but maybe you leverage your SBEAP funding, we do not want you to enter that data here. We would like you to limit this to strictly those areas where you have budget dollars and record that here. Do not add your P2 dollars or other dollars here. Then again, we're just asking you to confirm that this is on a fiscal or a calendar year. As we go into question 6, as you look at that budget and what was funded, how many FTEs does that fund? Some programs only have a quarter FTE. Our program has about 2.5. There are other programs who have reported as many as 30 FTE. But again, you should base that strictly on your budget for your SBO, SB program. Do not add in the FTE that fund your P2 program. And then some basic questions about your CAP and whether it is active or not. Where's your program housed? We're housed in a university. If none of these options work, then obviously you can type in under other where you're housed at. Is your program, if it's housed in an environmental agency like the Kansas Department of Health and Environment or Nebraska DEQ, where is your program housed? Is it housed in air? Is it housed in waste? Maybe it's housed under the main environment director, and then you would click other to indicate that. Question 11 wants to know if you're multimedia. Are you an air-only program, or are you like our program where you are multimedia? Now, question 12 gets into the area where it's always a little bit tricky, and we do our very best to ask you to indicate your data so that we are all reporting approximately the same type of thing. Not the exact same data points, right, but for the same reason. So question 12 says, please provide your best estimate counts for each type of assistance activity that you did during the year. So count each visit, meeting, call, email in an effort to provide assistance to a business, whatever information it took to provide that assistance. So for example, if I visited a business twice during the year, I actually count that as 2 site visits when I do my total site visit count. If I had several different calls with a client regarding permit assistance, then for the most part, I would indicate each of those various calls that might have dealt with a different issue on that permit application. So you get the point there. We're not looking at just, that was one business, we only count it once, even though we talked to them twice. No, we're trying to capture that effort, so we count it twice. Number 13 provides information on outreach activities for the, this does say calendar year, but it really should be the reporting year. And what we want is you to provide the number of events, distributions that you might have had for the program. So for example, if you had 8 newsletters and 3 other mailings, you would put 8 here in this area, and then depending on what the other mailings were, maybe they were about seminars, and you would put the 3 here. The next couple of questions go into, or the next question goes into an estimated audience that we reached for those newsletters. So the example is, if I have 2,000 subscribers for my 8 newsletters and 100 for the other mailings, then I would have a number of 16,300. So for example, 16,000 would be the number I reached on my 8 newsletters, and then 3,300 rather would be the number that I reach for my other mailings. So these are important to distinguish from these so we do not get them mixed up. Now and then if we do see an odd number, we will try to reach out to your program to get an idea on maybe where a mistake was made. And again, that's so that we can have apples and apples, and when we go to consolidate the data, we're not necessarily having some data that is way off the norm. Number 15 asks about your website URL, and then we're looking for the total number of page views. And that's where someone comes and they actually look at your website, not the hits. Hits can be someone goes to your website erroneously, didn't intend to. So we're looking for the page views. How about social media? Does your program use social media? If so, please indicate which ones. Next, what we're looking for, these last few questions, we tried to make this as simple as possible. But in our flyer, we would love to have some testimonials. One sentence longer is just fine, but quotes from your clients about their experience working with you, and obviously they would have given you permission to share this so that we can use it in our annual flyer. Same type of thing, a very short case study. Maybe some of the award winners or folks who worked with award winners could share a short snippet as a case study for our annual flyer. That's what we did for the flyer we produced last year. It came from a national award winner. Then number 19 is very important. We're looking for outcomes here. So far we've only been indicating outputs, the beans, the numbers. What we're looking for here, if your program through SBEAP or even through P2, just indicate, if it's not through SBEAP and a different grant, just indicate this was reported under our P2 grant to EPA in 2017. But we would like you to list the pounds of emissions reduced, the dollars saved, greenhouse gases avoided, tonnage reduced, hazardous material pounds reduced, any kind of outcome data. Maybe you've got behavior change data that you can report here. We did a big event for air permitting and compliance. As part of our evaluation, we captured data from behavior change. Will you make a change as a result of what you learned today? X number of people indicated yes, and we asked what type of change, and the responses they give, we are going to report here. Then the number 20 is just simply anything else that maybe you felt your program did that another program could learn from. Maybe your program won an award. Maybe your program had a very, very successful event and you'd like to report the numbers here because they were not reported earlier, or other information that you might be able to report here that was not captured earlier. We would love to hear about that. That is all very important. So with that said, please make sure that you get your data together and you fill out this really pretty simple form. We do want it sent in electronically. If you cannot post it electronically because maybe you can't access SurveyMonkey at your workplace, please get with Laura or Jennifer or myself, and we will enter your data for you so that your numbers can be counted. Last year we had 37 programs report. Our goal is 50. So if we don't hear from people and they're not reporting by December 15th, we're actually going to split up those states that haven't reported and start contacting people personally, because your data is really important. So with that said, I want to thank you for attending and listening to this training today, and much success with all of your data input. Thank you.